The tech industry in 2026 is designed to be unfair. It is a system built by massive corporations to extract the highest possible value from your brain while paying you just enough to keep you comfortable and compliant. Most software engineers look at this unfairness and feel like victims of a very broken system. They see the layoffs, they see the hiring freezes and the wage pressure, and they assume that the game is fundamentally over. And that conclusion comes from looking at the industry like an employee who is waiting for permission. But if you look at it like an operator who is building leverage, the same environment slowly starts to look like an opportunity. Now, my name is Bago, and I spent close to a decade in places like NASA and Fortune 500 as a software engineer. And I have been on both sides of the table. I've been the engineer who felt squeezed of every drop of productivity, and I have also been the founder of a 7-figure consulting firm that captures the full value of the work that I do. And in this video, I will explain why the industry is rigged against you as a software engineer and how you can use those same exact rules as leverage. We are going to cover 3 pillars of this unfair system and what you can do with each one. Let's get started with pillar 1. And of course, it's gonna be about AI, but not in the way that you might think. Arguably, this is what's stressing developers out the most right now. People keep saying that AI is going to replace software engineers. And I mean, you see the headlines every single day. Thousands of videos on X, on YouTube, on Instagram, talking about tools that are generating code in minutes that used to take you weeks. And fundamentally, don't get me wrong, AI is changing the job market. But there is also a second effect that benefits the employers. You see, when a workforce feels replaceable, it becomes easier to push workloads up and compensation down. And here's the part that you need to understand very clearly. AI is replacing coders faster than it is replacing software engineers. And these two are fundamentally not the same. A coder takes a clear specification and turns it into a working software. A coder implements features that somebody else designed. A coder writes functions, fixes bugs, and completes tickets. And AI is getting extremely good at all those things. I mean, some of you might already be familiar with it. It can produce first drafts of boilerplate code, it can generate unit tests, and it can handle routine refactors relatively quickly. So if your value is mostly tied to producing code from clear instructions, then yes, your market price will drop as code becomes cheaper to produce with AI. But an engineer contributes a completely different kind of value. You see, a software engineer decides what is worth building in the first place and what is not worth building. A software engineer clarifies vague requirements, they translate the messy reality into an actual usable system design, and they prevent expensive mistakes before they actually happen. A software engineer anticipates edge cases that never show up in a ticket. They choose trade-offs between speed, scale, security, cost, and reliability, and they are able to navigate all of this because they have the software engineer's judgment. And this judgment is harder to automate because it depends completely on the context, the constraints, and the consequences of the system at hand. So the industry prefers that you stay in this coder box because it's literally easier to swap coders in and out. But if you want to protect your career and raise your ceiling, well, guess what? You're gonna need to spend more of your actual time on the parts that are not simply typing. So here's a practical advantage that you have in this so-called disadvantage. These tools reduce the time and cost of producing a first draft. So that means that you as a software engineer can spend more of your effort on the parts that actually matter. So you can take on work that previously might have required multiple people to handle, or maybe you would have to outsource, because the AI now can handle the first draft and you can handle the rest of the decisions. So be it the corrections, be it the quality control, and more customer-facing things. For example, you can often prototype a feature in pretty much hours instead of days because the tools can now scaffold the very basic structure of whatever it is you're creating. They can generate boilerplate code, right? So your job becomes more about reviewing, correcting, and aligning the implementation to real-world requirements and real constraints. And that shift increases your output without directly forcing you to work longer hours. And it also makes it a lot easier for you to test ideas in the market, which matters especially if you want to build something of your own. So that is pillar one. Employers use the fear narrative to lower your leverage such that you will put in more hours, be more comfortable with less pay, negotiate less, and do more work. But the AI tools themselves do raise your leverage if you actually use them correctly. Now, the second pillar is that the industry pays you for your title instead of your best skills. And I call this the rounding down trap. So I want you to genuinely think about what you are unusually good at, better than your peers. So not what you're generally competent at, but what you do better than pretty much most people around you. Now, maybe you understand a very specific industry extremely well, like logistics, healthcare, finance, security, or compliance. Maybe you can simplify complex systems in a way that saves months of confusion. And maybe you consistently find the real root causes while others are still debating the symptoms. Maybe you are the person who can translate between the technical and the non-technical without losing precision. These are what I call spikes. And these spikes are where your real value actually lives. But your employer does not have a clean way to actually pay you for your spikes. Most companies use salary bands and role levels. If your title is, let's say, a senior software engineer, you get paid within a certain salary range, even if your work exceeds the value that they're saying you provide. So if you prevent a major outage, you, let's say, reduce fraud, increase conversions, or you just save a team months of effort, you're not going to get compensated for that. Your rare strengths, so your spikes, get compressed into a generic job description. And the company benefits from the full value of your best strengths. So they benefit from the full value of your spikes, but guess what? Your pay is still anchored to what the role usually pays on average. So there is no incentive for you to perform better than average, even though that is what you are capable of. And as an employee, this feels extremely unfair. But as the person hiring, this is the best thing ever, right? And as an operator, you realize that this is where the opportunity actually lies. Outside corporate salary bands, the market does not pay for your title. The market only pays for outcomes. And there are businesses right now losing serious money because one process is broken, one system is unreliable, or one workflow is wasting labor every single day. And many of these problems do not require inventing new technology. In fact, most of them do not. All they require is somebody who can actually diagnose the real issue at hand, design the right fix for it, and properly deliver it. Now, I am sure for many of you inside your own company, your knowledge might be treated as, let's say, helpful context. But outside your company, that same exact knowledge can become a paid offer because it solves a painful problem with a very measurable outcome. Instead of being evaluated once or twice a year by a manager for your performance reviews, imagine you are paid by a customer who actually cares about the results. Instead of being limited by a salary band, imagine you pricing yourself based on your impact and the urgency that you create. So this is why engineers who are able to pick the right niche and they're able to spot the right problem can earn disproportionately more with less total complexity than a corporate career. This is the same exact reason you have people making millions compared to the people making hundreds of thousands. And that is really pillar two. Your employer rounds your value down. The market can pay you for the exact spike that makes you valuable. The third pillar is the illusion of safety. Now, tech has convinced people that staying at a big company is pretty much the holy grail. It's safe, and building your own thing is in fact the riskiest option you have. They make you focus on the immediate downside of leaving big tech, such as losing your salary, losing your health benefits, or just even losing your status and becoming unemployed. But they rarely emphasize the long-term downside of staying, and they almost never talk about the upside of leaving. Here's what actually tends to happen. Let's say you stay another year or two. Sure, your income might rise, and that's a big might. And your lifestyle is going to most likely expand to match that. You're going to take on bigger obligations. Your switching costs are going to climb every single year because guess what? Inflation, right? And the dollar is getting devalued as time goes on. At the same time, these large companies structure incentives to keep you waiting because they understand what's happening. They use vesting schedules, refreshers, and promotion cycles to anchor your decisions to the next milestone. So you start telling yourself that you will leave after the next grant, or after the next bonus, or after the next title when you get promoted. And when that time passes, leaving becomes harder because now you're aiming for the next one. And it's not because you became less capable, but it's because the cost of change now becomes higher and higher. If you wait way too long to quit, you lose flexibility. You also lose time, which is the one resource that you cannot ever truly recover. Don't get me wrong, a stable job can be a good asset, but only if it is used intentionally. Only if it is used as a stop on a journey and not the final destination. So here's how I want you to reframe this. Your current job can fund your transition from a 9-to-5 to a business. It pays you to learn how systems work at scale. It exposes you to how decisions get made and how budgets can get allocated. It gives you income that can cover your life while you test offers and a business on the side. You're able to build relationships, you're able to validate problems on the side, all while still getting your paycheck every 2 weeks. But that will only work if you treat the job as a platform that you are using, and once again, not as a place you are trying to be accepted forever. And that is pillar 3. The job can fund your experiments, but if you stay without a plan, it can gradually remove your options and you will waste years. And I see the same pattern constantly. Brilliant engineers getting stuck on one question. What problem should I solve? Because corporate environments train you to follow directions. But over time, many engineers actually lose the habit of choosing their own direction. And that creates what's called strategic paralysis. So it's not necessarily a lack of intelligence, it is corporate conditioning. And to give you a very good example of this, one of our founders inside Code to CEO, Demir, realized that technical skill was only half the equation. He started learning the adjacent skills that engineers often avoid, like sales, negotiation, marketing, and positioning, and communication. And he realized that once he had these skills, he could now connect his technical spikes to a very specific buyer and a very specific outcome. And that reduced the uncertainty because he was no longer guessing what the market wanted, and he in fact proved it. Another founder from Code to CEO, John, was sabotaging himself before he even started. He assumed that his ideas would fail, so he sent weak outreach, and as a result, he would expect rejection. But once he actually followed a very specific structured process and he understood how to improve each little thing and he communicated the value he was going to provide, he ended up onboarding 3 clients within the first month. And he did not need another degree. He did not need to go back to university and learn more stuff. All he needed was a repeatable method and a higher standard for execution. So the point I'm trying to make is tech industry is not going to magically become fair. These dynamics exist because they benefit the owners, the corporations, and the shareholders. They want labor to be replaceable, predictable, and as cheaply as they can get. Once you see the structure clearly, you now really have only 2 choices. You can keep playing by the corporation's rules and hope that the next review cycle treats you well. Or you can use the environment to actually build leverage for yourself for the first time in your life. And here are the 3 assets that you already have. First and foremost, you already have the engineering judgment that is extremely hard to automate because it depends on context and consequences, which as of right now, AI cannot replicate. Second, you have the unique spikes that your employer cannot fully price. And third, you have a stable income as of right now that can fund experiments while your risk is still low. Most people complain about these conditions. They view them from a very negative angle. But the better move is to actually understand that you can use them. These are resources, you just have to be resourceful enough to use them. So what I want you to do next is, I don't want you to watch this and feel motivated for an hour. I want you to answer one question for me honestly. What are you specifically waiting for right now? What would have to be true for you to actually start going on this path? Business is not a pass or fail exam. You're gonna learn by doing, and you're gonna adjust as you go. And there is no end game. Business is infinite. You do not need to be a genius to start a consulting business, and you don't even need to build a product just because you're a software engineer. All you really need is to solve a very specific problem for a specific group of people, and you need to be able to communicate the value clearly enough that will pay you whatever you ask of them. That is all you have to do. And the biggest lie in the entire tech industry that sells engineers is that business is a dark art and that it's hard and that you are not qualified. You have to be born into it. But understand that you are a problem solver who uses code as a tool. When you start viewing your skills through the lens of an outcome instead of titles, you begin to understand and fundamentally see opportunities that were invisible before. So if you want the exact roadmap for how to choose a real problem, validate demand, package an offer, and land clients without guessing, that is why I build Code to CEO. It is a structured accelerator designed to help engineers go from employee to operators. The link is in the description down below. As always, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you learned something, and I shall see you in the next one.